What is something shady going on in your neighborhood? So this is a perfect topic for me, because I feel like I've stumbled on a legit conspiracy in my neighborhood. There is large park with a trail and many small parking lots in my neighborhood. I often take my dog there, and I have for several years now. It is very common to go there late morning or early afternoon on a weekday and see someone sitting in their car in one of the little parking lots, doing nothing. It could be a man or a woman, anywhere from 30 to 60 years of age, alone in their car. They will remain in that spot for a long while, then drive to another spot and continue to sit, sometimes for hours. They always face the road that loops through the park and connects the parking lots. They never face toward the park, always the road. I see it about 2 to 3 times a week. I casually asked park police about it one day, and he said he recognized it as well, and has asked them at times what they are doing. But their answers are innocent, so he has no idea what's going on. Once there was a guy who was sitting in his car for 20 minutes when another guy pulled into the lot and sat there for 15 minutes or so. The first guy got up and went into the bathroom, and 10 minutes later the first guy got up and went in. They were in there for about 20 minutes at least. I never saw them come out. My best guess was that it was an anonymous sex rendezvous, but like I said, it's people of all ages and genders doing this, and they usually never get out of their cars. The conspiracy theorist in me suspects it's a meetup spot for spies and their handlers, since this is right outside DC, but I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. Still shady though. Edit. This began before the Pokemon Go craze, and the demographic is definitely not the Pokemon crowd. Common sense tells me it's definitely a sexual rendezvous thing. A former girlfriend and I moved in a U-Haul from California to Georgia a decade ago. We were driving through Alabama one afternoon and pulled off to stretch our legs at a war memorial off I-459 somewhere. As we circled the parking lot looking for an area to accommodate our large truck, I realized there were a handful of cars with single men just kind of parked in various spots. Another car or two were slowly circling. We pulled in and everyone sat tight for a minute, quietly assessing us. None of them seemed to want to get out and tour the memorial. We walked the memorial and eventually got back to the truck and headed on our way. I remember asking my ex, is it just me, or was that gay sex cruising central? Not that there's anything wrong with doing a gay sex on someone. It's just humorous when you realize what it is you've innocently stumbled into and why everyone is treating you like an interloper. I live in a small town where hardly anything ever happens, but almost every single night I hear screaming or some other random sounds coming from somewhere around my neighborhood. I have no idea what is going on, and I don't want to know. A small popular, family-owned restaurant in the neighborhood shares their property with a family-owned cafe. The cafe part caught fire a few weeks ago suddenly, and the site was completely cleared of any and all debris within a day and a half, stopping the beginning police search before it could be finished. Within half a day of the fire, the restaurant workers and locals heard a rumor saying arson, but before the police could continue the search, the debris was gone. It's not like it even burned to the ground or anything. It easily looked repairable. But it is now just a flat patch of gravel, and the search is essentially over since all the evidence is gone. Kinda shady. I live facing into a crescent. Every morning and many evenings a 20-ish-year-old girl leaves the house at the other side of the crescent to walk to the bus. Often there is a man of about the same age waiting around the corner for her. He is often crouching under a tree, face covered. When he sees her he jumps up and rushes to her. Often he is crying and begging and telling her that he loves her. Sometimes they argue, and sometimes they talk for a long time. Sometimes he hands her a gift, like an entire book of what appears to be handwritten notes or poetry. He generally carries her backpack for her as she walks to the bus. She walks about 15 feet ahead of him. She is dating and lives with a completely different man and his parents in that crescent. I don't know who this other guy is. My neighbors erected a massive flagpole and each day they put a new flag up there. I can't for the life of me figure out why, but they're either bored, or it's for nefarious purposes that I'm not perceptive enough to figure out. Also, two kangaroos had a fight on my road last week. Wondering if they're somehow involved in the flag shenanigans. My parents live in a conservative neighborhood full of elderly people who have lived there for decades. One of the neighbors retired to Florida and a biker gang bought the house and used it as a meeting place. My parents think it's hilarious, but the other neighbors are horrified. I'm fairly certain that the church down the street is actually a cult. I've never seen a Christian ceremony where they march down the street chanting every month like they do. Also, they are very inconsiderate, not giving those in the neighborhood any warning that they are going to be doing this. It has caused me to be late for work before, and I know they aren't pulling any permits to have their little parades. There's been a police cruiser sitting in front of a known drug den on my street coming at the same time every day and staying for exactly 2.5 hours. I have no idea if they are trying to do surveillance or just freak him out. I'm pretty sure the owner of a takeaway near our house is selling drugs. The place has only a handful of customers every night and it should have gone out of business a long time ago. Alas, it's still open and all sort of shady people gather in front of it as closing time approaches. The other shady thing happened a few months ago. One night, a neighbor was rushed at the hospital. He is 70 or 75 years old and very overweight. Everybody, his family included, thought he had a heart attack. It turned out he tried to become a sugar daddy for a 25-year-old woman, but was too cheap and didn't give enough money, so he got his ass beaten up by some of her friends. House is rented out but nobody lives there. Once a month or so, two really nice German sports cars with privacy tinting pull into the garage for a couple of hours and then leave. So this all happened recently. Neighbor A and neighbor B live beside each other. Neighbor A plays music too loud one night, so neighbor B threw a brick through their window. Neighbor A then comes to the only logical conclusion out there and gets 10 of his friends together, goes to the local petrol station with a wheelie bin and fills it full of petrol. Proceeds to break the living room window, insert the bin full of petrol into said living room, and then throw a petrol bomb in to light it. Me and the lads were staging a poker night in my house across the street and watched it all go down. My parents' house is in one of the nicest, safest, and most expensive boroughs in London where 3 bedrooms easily sell for £1 million. One of the 1.5 million houses, edit, a 5-bedroom at best guess, possibly more like 1.3 mil, caught on fire recently because it was being used to grow weed, and the firefighters couldn't get in because the whole place was booby trapped. That's idyllic London borough life for you. Meth. Meth and more meth. The miles of woods around my house are filled with roving meth heads equipped with burglary tools. They also have little campsites where they live and set up shake and bake labs. Most, if not all, are wanted on warrants. They do sweeps down here occasionally to round all them up, but it's extremely hard because local law enforcement is seriously undermanned. On top of that, when they do arrest one of these people, the court immediately just lets them go and they come right back to the woods. They never show up for their court dates, so they just hang out in the woods with warrants until the process repeats itself. Our local court system is a joke. When they finally do pin one of them down, they never put them in jail, just give them probation. It's why they are so brazen. They know they will never actually go to jail for it. My hood. Neighbors across the street have a loud, dramatic public breakup on the street whenever they have friends over. Last time he apparently found out she had been talking to some bloke in prison on Instagram. The time before that, she found out he was on Tinder. Fortunately, this always happens around 8 PM on weekends, so it's not a nuisance, more entertainment. My brother's hood. A guy is dealing drugs near the train station. He rides a tiny dirt bike thing, so whenever the cops come he takes off into the nearby bush. He has fun with it though, often makes them chase him around in circles. Total mad cunt. No. They're cowardly little cockroaches that scuttle away when the light is turned on. We had this woman not too long ago pop out of the woods by our house. Bug-eyed, pouring sweat, and geeked out of her mind. She had a garden hoe with a sawed-off handle. We were home, but both our cars were gone. We were working in the yard, and she didn't even see us. Watched her come crashing out of the woods, through the creek, and through a bunch of blackberry bushes. She wasn't even fazed by those bushes. They tore her up too. She was covered in bloody scratches. We watched her walk up to the side of the house and start peering in the windows. That's when she spotted us, screamed at us just taking a hike motherfuckers, and tore off the other direction and back into the woods. I actually have cell numbers belonging to our local cops. That's a whole nother story right there. And so I texted one of them to let him know what happened and where she was, if he wanted to come scoop her up. She's already wanted. He obliged and arrested her. She was released immediately and right back down here in less than 24 hours. I saw her the other day shambling around the fishing hole up the road with her sawed-off hoe. We never leave our house unattended because of these people. Nobody down here can. It sucks. We've tried to move but nobody wants to buy our house, so for the time being we are stuck here. There's a lady that lives right across from an entrance to my neighborhood, and everyone in my neighborhood thinks she's batshit crazy because every afternoon she sits in her car in her driveway behind a giant electric fence, just waiting. And anything that comes near should expect a phone call to the police, along with stay off my damn property, even if no real threat was made. Apparently she's also had a poor history with the police herself. Probably attacked a kid at some point. I don't think it's going on anymore. Two of my neighbors are in a fight. I heard a rumor she once threw cake at him from her balcony. Once I caught him following her and looking where she went. Creepy. He has mental issues, but he calmed down when he got grandchildren. Now he just practices shooting in his backyard and goes around with a lamp at night. He cut down a perfect cherry tree because birds used to hang out there in the morning and chirp. Had neighbors with video cameras on every angle of the house. Cars would pull up at all hours of the night. One person would get out of the car and go in, while the others stayed in the car. They'd be in the house for 5 to 10 minutes before they came out, got back in the car and left. I live in a small cul-de-sac that has 5 duplexes and I've been there for months. Let's just take a tour of the neighborhood. First house has either 1 or 2 unknown occupants. They keep to themselves mostly, not much known about them, except they have a really nice Mustang, and one time, when I went for a walk I saw that car haphazardly parked on the front lawn like 2 feet from the front facade. Next to them is a woman named Linda who I was introduced to when I moved into my place. She was cleaning it up from the previous tenant. The landlord proudly proclaimed Linda as her best tenant, and she's been living there for 9 years, and was the woman she relied on to keep an eye on the street. Linda told me 2 months later she was moving, because the landlord doesn't care about the apartments. The few times I've arrived home after midnight she was sitting in chair under her carport staring out at everything. Very weird lady. The woman I share a wall with is someone I've never met. I hear her constantly yelling at someone though at all hours. I'm not exaggerating. I come home I can hear her faintly through the walls shrieking, and fall asleep still hearing that and wake up to her doing it. After about a month of living there I asked Linda if she has someone living with her, and she said no, just a small dog. Across the street at the top is an old lady named Talia. She saw me at a restaurant a few months after I moved in and said, "You're the boy at the end of the street. I watch you all the time. You're a very good boy." I'm 35, but she's like 90, so everyone is a good boy to her. Next to her is a middle-aged trashy woman who has, no joke, 20 wind chimes hanging inside her small carport and has basically made the carport an outdoor living area that she keeps her 2 dogs locked up in. They constantly bark, non-stop, from 5 in the morning until 12 at night when she brings them inside. I assume she was cursed with some sort of silence demon that she wards off by surrounding herself with constant noise. She's literally the worst person on the block. She has a 16-year-old daughter whom I saw giving a BJ to her boyfriend at 1 AM in my backyard a few weeks ago. Next to her is a lady around my age, whom always seems to be outside walking her dog whenever I walk mine or leave my place for work in the morning, eager to make small talk with me. She's thick AF and wears leopard print capris sometimes, which hits a lot of high points with me. The trashy guy and his elderly bitchy mom that live next to her are related to the people at the far end of the complex. The bitchy mom sits in a wheelchair outside all day, smoking cigarettes and watching her great grandson run around in his underwear in the yard destroying shit and yelling all the time. The dude between them is a college-aged guy who leaves a bright light on in his carport storage place all the time. Probably growing weed in there, but I can't be sure. I should try to make friends with him just in case. The trashy young couple at the far end are somehow related to the trashy son and his mom 2 apartments down from them. They have a constant stream of very shady people coming and going at all hours. Their toddler son is never fully clothed and stays outside every day until like 10:30, screaming and destroying shit and covered in dirt. I'll let him leave his toys in my side yard because I feel like it's better than hanging out in that drug den. I've unfortunately seen his mother topless in their front door screaming at him several times in the few months I've lived there. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more high quality AskReddit content daily. ClubPepe for life fam #elite.